This was sent by Swizz24X. Some fighters seem to struggle and take the pain as long as they can. Others seem to tap quickly once they know they're stuck. I don't want to tap too early when I could have escaped, but I don't want to trade my limbs for victory either. What is the point when you should decide to tap?
Yeah, like that's really well put. I don't want to trade my limbs for victory either. Right? There's no money on the line. There's nothing going down. Um, so great question. And my answer to this one depends greatly on how long you've been in the fight game. When you're brand new to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you aren't even aware of all the ways that you can get hurt. So it's really important to leave your pride at the door, leave your ego at the door, and tap early and often because your pride is not worth missing your weeks of training in which you actually learn to defeat the submission that you just got caught in, not worth being hurt sitting on the sideline. The reason some people tap so quickly is that they realize that they're already made a mistake. They're already in the armbar. They shouldn't have allowed their arm to get extended or their neck to get put in a compromising situation to begin with. So rather than spending, half of like a round delaying the tap and wasting time, they just tap, move on, get back to practicing, not to make that mistake to begin with. And that's a great way to learn and protect yourself when you're a beginner, but it's terrible to roll against someone who doesn't let you finish later on. As you progress, you don't want people that tap immediately and don't let you finish practicing because if you ever go into something, either reality self-defense situations or cage fighting, something like that, you actually have to be willing and able to finish those submissions and then inflict that damage. So you have to go all the way with that. As you spend more time on the mats, you'll learn the difference between like a position where there's nothing left to do but delay the inevitable and a difficult situation that you can fight through. That said, training is much different than competition. There's like different purposes, there's different stakes, and there's different policies. So in competition, you'll hold out longer, you'll push the envelope more. Especially like I've been injured twice in tournaments. Both times it was competing for money. Because you're gonna hold out. One time we got the money, one time I didn't, and just went home with an injury. So you've got to learn that, I guess, through experience. But it's how much is on the line, what the stakes are. Because it doesn't set your training back at all, I encourage my students never to tap two chokes in competition, just because you never know when the round is about to end, and especially in fighting, but also in jiu-jitsu sometimes. There might be 2 seconds left, and you might wake up a winner. So I've actually had points where I almost went out, and it just did end. So I don't encourage tapping the chokes as much. I think you'll be fine. You wake up, everything's pretty much the same. Don't quote me on that. There'll be some long-term damage in there. Nobody else knows better than I do. But if you're willing to just take a little nap and come back, then don't tap the chokes, but tap early to the anything that's going to do joint damage.
Okay. So you like to take it as far as you can go with the chokes, basically, but any submissions where bones would be broken, you suggest tapping once you know you're stuck, basically?
Absolutely. And I'm speaking in the idea of what's going to affect your training. So if you make a mistake and you get guillotined, you pass out, 4 minutes later, you're back rolling. No problem. You're back training. If you hold out for that armbar too long and it pops, you're done for a couple weeks. You're probably off the mat for at least a day or two. So that's affecting your training. So when you're young and you're new and your goal is getting better, keep it in the context of what's going to really help me in the long term, not what's going to, affect my pride today. Okay, I had to tap out today, but I get to come back tomorrow and learn more.
And so this next question was sent by Kreider Rose. How do you know that there is no way out of a submission that you were in? What signs will be present that you can escape?
Yeah. So, unfortunately, and obviously, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is not binary. So there's no hard and fast assurance that you can escape a submission. So let me offer this. If your hips are hurt, you probably aren't stopped, right? You can move your hips. You probably don't have it isolated. If you've done BJJ for more than a few minutes, you realize that almost every submission involves securing the other person's hips in some way or another part of their body to leverage against that. Even like when you're doing non-bar, your leg is across their torso. It's transferring that weight to the center of the body. In order to isolate a smaller and then weaker joint or artery or airway or something and attack that. So look for the other person's hips to be loose, like in the case of that arm bar where you can slip your head inside their guard, or you can slip your elbow out to the ground, or look for a chance for your hips to be either unencumbered or free, like in a guillotine where they just grab your neck and they can attack your neck just fine, but they sit backwards and you can step across their body. Your hips are free to move cross body and they can't finish the choke. So be aware of your hips and their hips. If your hips can't move and the pressure is increasing, you're more than likely in trouble and you're probably just headed for danger. Someone's going to get hurt because you can't go anywhere. Nothing's getting better from this point. That's when you go ahead and tap and go back and not getting into that position to begin with.
And so this next question was sent by Audex12. Almost every time I get put into a submission, I panic and forget what I've been taught to escape. How do you stay calm and focused?
How do you stay calm and focused? Experience will teach you to trust yourself and your instincts. So when that happens, you'll be able to stay calmer, obviously focus better. In school, your first day is exciting and can throw you off your game, but by like the 100th day of class, you're just busy thinking about the weekend or finishing off that homework and texting a friend like when you sit down. So it's the context and how many times you've been in that situation. Your mind frame will actually change. The 100th time you get put into a triangle, it won't be as daunting as the first time. Your mind will go immediately to posturing instead of like being upset with yourself over leaving one arm in when you knew you shouldn't. Remember, drill is essential. A lot of people will kind of neglect that, but if you're having trouble in a situation, you just learn to move. You grasp the general idea of it, but your body instinctively performs that move when you're drilling it. When you do it over and over, you're teaching yourself to go immediately to something that's unnatural. And until your body instinctively performs that move without you having to reason through it, like without you having to think through every step of it, you won't have a lot of success with it in live competition. It takes too long. So drill the move in class, but make sure you do like situational drilling, meaning don't just have a partner that's letting you do the move perfectly every time, because everything changes like that. That's not functional drilling. So start in a triangle and have the other person actually try to finish the triangle instead of just letting you drill out of it. And it may leave you having to tap out a lot. You may get tapped over and over and over because you're starting in a bad situation, but again, don't let your pride get involved. That's okay. You started in a triangle, and on the triangle, they're not better than you. You're working through it. So by the point you're bored of panicking because you've been tapped 8 times and you're thinking, oh no, the triangle again, you're starting to practice and get that first reaction. You're sick of this reacting improperly, and you'll start to go, okay, I've been drilling this over and over and over, and I keep getting tapped, so why don't I just think about the first move, my first instinct. If you're still panic and forget, think through it before you enter the next attempt. Like sit there and visualize. And if you can't, if you don't have a partner to do drills with, visualization is the next best thing, and it works the exact same way. Close your eyes, see yourself entering that situation, and kind of like try to feel the moment of panic. Try to experience the first, emotion you'll feel when you get in there. Like the last time it actually happened, and then see yourself doing the right thing. So then you gotta trigger when I feel that panic. See yourself doing step 1, step 2, step 3. Like see yourself posturing, see yourself grabbing the knee, turning, going the right way rather than the wrong way, rather than freezing up and being mad at yourself for ending up in that position to begin with. Do it over and over until you just visualize the situation. Your first thought is step 1. Your first, emotion is that proper posture, that proper counter. The more details that you imagine and the more real that you make your experience while visualizing, the more helpful it's going to be when you actually find yourself in that situation.
So, here's my last question sent by DJ Arnie1. Many more experienced guys at my gym always seem to predict my attack. They say they can read me. How can you read your opponent to know they are about to go for a submission?
Yeah, I like this one. So, in a lot of ways, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is very systematic and it's very layered. You kind of talked earlier, like it's not binary, it's not one of it, but there is a decision tree there, and you can't go from, rear mount to a knee bar as easy as you can go from half guard to a knee bar, And so most of the time, a white belt will learn an arm bar before they'll learn like an omoplata. And there's a certain group of moves that you'll learn in a certain order. It's not the same for everybody, but it's generally the same. You learn a triangle before you learn a heel hook for most people. Upper belt in your guard can probably use their own experience, their own BJJ like journey to subconsciously narrow the number of attacks that they're looking out for based on like the limited moves that they know you have available. And that makes it a lot easier to predict, obviously. This will be especially true at your home gym or with the instructor, who for the most part knows everything that you know because they've taught you everything you know. But even, as you journey on, like, people are creatures of habit, which makes continuing training at the same gym fun. But it's like continuing to train with the same people, you're going to see the same things over and over. You kind of learn them. At first, you learn a Kimura, then you learn a hip bump to set up the Kimura. Eventually, you learn to hip bump, take the Kimura, come around to the triangle. Your attacks get better and they get more nuanced, leading your opponents to some traps. But your training partners learn your habits at each level. So as you grow, they're used to it, and they know what's coming next based on the last 3 times you submitted them with it. So they'll learn to actually anticipate your pattern before you even do it. And that's mostly true for your home gym. It's great because it makes you sharper on defense. Like, they learn to chain their defenses more quickly. They learn to react to the 2 steps ahead that you're looking for. Not the move that you're specifically doing, but what's coming next. It makes you better on offense because you have to constantly adapt and not get stuck in like a tired routine. You can't do the same thing over and over. But keep in mind that in competition, your opponent may not be used to your favorite series or your favorite setup. They might not do the same thing at their gym and not have the same person doing the same series. And so you might enjoy much more success than you would against even like your lower belts that know you in your own gym because they're so used to what you do and breaking it down. And I see that especially in brothers, adults, and then even kids. They grapple with each other all the time. And so we'll have children that like their older brother is 3 belts above them and way better and everything, but they'll compete at almost the same level with that one person just because they know each other so well that they can beat and anticipate each other. And that comes even from the lower belted practitioner. Like, even the younger practitioner can experience and anticipate the older person if they have that much experience rolling with them. And then lastly, I guess experienced practitioners can anticipate opponents even though they've never rolled with them before. Like, that's a kind of a skill you usually pick up. And not just because the standard movement changed, but also because they can feel your body and your weight shift before they can see it. So one thing I like to do sometimes is just try closing your eyes and passing someone's guard. And it's not nearly as hard as you think. And become more in tune with like the angle of their hips and where they place their weight. And you can actually feel what they're thinking, the way they're going, what they're looking for, and anticipate that because you can feel their shifts. As a white belt, this might not help you much because you might not yet know what a particular angle of the hips means. But trust that as your repertoire of moves grow, so will the number of things that you can anticipate based on that awareness. Once you know what it actually means to shorten that way or shift in that way, then it'll mean more to you.